Belfast, which is now it's on demand everywhere and still in some theaters. But I think for a lot of American audiences, they're kind of getting their first education in the Troubles in Northern Ireland at that time, which was essentially, in the movie is certainly not about that, but it was essentially a conflict between Irish nationalists who were mostly Catholics who wanted to, leave the UK. And then there were a lot of loyalists to the UK, and they tended to be Protestant who wanted to remain part of the UK. And that was essentially the conflict. But how did that conflict, when you were growing up, Jamie, also in Northern Ireland, and you obviously came along a lot later than Kenneth, but how did that impact and inform your own childhood and life?
Yeah, well, this movie is very important because it shows how a real, normal, everyday working class family were affected by the conflict. These were people who weren't tribal, who weren't driven by their religion, who weren't, loyalist or nationalist. They were just people trying to live a peaceful life and had lived a peaceful life. And that is a large percentage of people from Northern Ireland. I was born in 1982, so 13 years into a 30-year conflict. I also had a much more middle-class upbringing than Ken did. About as privileged an upbringing as you can get in that part of the world. I very luckily for my secondary education went to an integrated school, both Catholic, Protestant, about 50-50% wise. That's quite rare. In fact, in Northern Ireland today in 2022, our primary schools, so age 4 to 11, less than 7% are integrated. So kids from the age of 4 are being told that they are different from the kids who live in the same street as them because of the church that their parents go to. It's shocking. There's no way of getting they're ever going to advance as a country unless they deal with that, which is crazy that we're still having that conversation now. But you can't be from that part of the world and not be negatively affected by what went on. Even kids who grew up post 1998, Good Friday Agreement, peace, relative peace, they obviously haven't grown up in a conflict society, but they have grown up in a post-conflict society, and the scars of that conflict are very red still in their parents' generation. And there's still a lot of people beating the drum pretty hard and talking in a very old politics style about the future of that place. So, it's still a very complicated part of the world. I think this movie is important because it does show to a wider audience. You're not trying to educate people, but you are trying to make people understand a little bit more about the everyday person, how much they didn't ask for it. We have seen the north of Ireland in film before depicted through many different lenses. I mean, Academy Award-winning films. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis with Jim Sheridan's In the Name of the Father gave you an angle of the Troubles. Steve McQueen with Hunger, Michael Fassbender with Bobby Sands' Dirty Protest gave you a very unique lens of part of the political side of the conflict. Jan Demand made 71 a few years back now, gave you another angle from the British military angle of the Troubles. So, collectively, there are a lot of stories have been told about that part of the world, but why it's so important for me, speaking as someone from Belfast, I know how important it is for people from Belfast, for people to understand the human side of it, not always from a politicized lens or paramilitary lens, sectarian, tribal lens, just a normal family. That is so vitally important to tell that story.